buttonhole on the Babylock Joy, we'll use the 4-step buttonhole attachment. This is our attachment, and you'll find that in your accessory tray. Before we go ahead and attach the buttonhole attachment in place, we want to make a couple of selections on the front of our machine. First thing that we need to do is, using the stitch selector knob, we need to go to the number 1 setting on the buttonhole. If we look at the diagram for the 4-step buttonhole on the side of our machine where all our stitches are shown, you'll see that you have 3 icons or 3 graphics. The first graphic shows number 1. That's the first leg of the buttonhole we will sew. Then you'll see that you have an icon that shows a number 2 and a number 4. That's the top and the bottom of the buttonhole. Number 2 will be the second part of the buttonhole we will sew, and that just goes from the left to the right. The third setting is the other side of the buttonhole, or the right-hand side or right-hand rung of the buttonhole, and that's the number 3, and that sews in the reverse. And our last setting is number 4, which is the top of the buttonhole. So now that we've adjusted our stitch selector to the 1 setting, we actually need to adjust our stitch length. And you'll notice between the 0 and the 1 that you have an icon or an image of that buttonhole. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to place it somewhere in between there. Our next step is to attach the buttonhole attachment. So I'm going to simply go ahead and release the presser foot from its position, and I am going to align the buttonhole attachment in place, lower my presser foot, and it will snap in place. Now, I've already gone ahead and marked my fabric for the size of my buttonhole. I have my bottom setting, my top setting, and the length that I need. So I'm going to place my fabric underneath, and I'm going to be aligning the top markings on the buttonhole attachment with the top of my buttonhole, because remember, number 1 is going to stitch towards me. So when I've got everything aligned, I'm going to lower my presser foot, and I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to start to sew, and this will be the left hand side or the left rung of my buttonhole. I'm going to sew down to the bottom, and when I get to that bottom marking that I created, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stop. Now I have to change it to that number 2 setting on the stitch selector dial, so it sews that bar tack along the bottom. And when I feel that I have enough of that bar tack in place, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select number 3. Again, that's the right hand side of the rung, and it's going to sew in reverse. I'm going to stitch to the back or to the top, and when I get to that top marking, I'm going to stop and sew the 4th portion, or the last portion of that buttonhole. So now I'm on number 4, and it's going to sew from the left to the right. I'm going to go ahead and stop, raise my presser foot. So I'm going to go ahead and pull everything out. I'm going to use the thread cutter on the side of the machine, and we're going to take a look at our beautiful buttonhole. So there's that 4-step buttonhole all done on the Babylock Joy. So we finished our buttonholes and we're ready to open them up. The first thing that we're going to do is just clip all these stray threads. Now there's 2 methods to doing this. One, you can use a seam ripper and a pin, and when you do that, you want to make sure that you put the pin right across that top of that bar tack. And what that does is it prevents you from accidentally having too much power or energy and cutting through to the end of that buttonhole. So when I use the seam ripper, what I do is I start in the middle, and I poke that seam ripper through, and I just kind of gently cut up to, very gently cut up to that pin. Now there's another method that you can use, and it's actually almost like a little chisel, and this will actually open up that buttonhole. And you also will need to use the little wooden pad that it comes with. So I'm going to place my fabric on top of that wooden pad, and I literally place the sharpest edge, now this is very sharp, inside that buttonhole and push down. And I sometimes will just rock it back and forth, and I move down to the other end of the buttonhole, again being careful of that bar tack. And when I'm done, what will happen is my buttonhole will be exposed. Sometimes you have to use a little extra power depending upon what type of stabilizer you have used in your fabric or interfacing. So now I've broken through, and you can see how easy it was to go ahead and open up that buttonhole. And that's how you create a buttonhole on the Babylock Joy.